Well, welcome everybody. For those of you that are just joining, we're going to start in about a minute or two. We'll give a few minutes here for people to gather and come on and get settled in. We're getting close here. Let's give it one more minute, and I think we'll get started here. All right, I think we'll get started here. We'll have a bunch more join. Looks like we're gathering a really good crowd right now. Welcome, everybody. My name is Skip Sanzeri. I'm a strategic advisor to iVALT. Been with the company almost since the beginning, going on 5 years, or actually over 5 years now. Today, we're going to focus on cryptocurrency and how identity affects that or can certainly help protect that. But there's a lot of broader topics here that are going to be discussed. And we're also going to touch on AI a little bit. I think we've got some really interesting news there. Um, we're living in a world now where things are changing really dramatically. I was just reading a report this morning that in China they were able to have AI replicate itself. So AI was they ran some procedures to shut it down, and it actually made copies of itself in the background. These are watershed events for AI. I mean, it's happening so rapidly. And as we know, AI is a huge factor when it comes to any type of cyber theft. Part of my background too, some of you may know me, I also founded QSecure, which is advanced post-quantum cybersecurity for the quantum computing side of this, but obviously had been looking at AI all along the way, and it's creating all sorts of new attack vectors and capabilities, deep fakes, and all of the impersonation that we're seeing out there now is driven by AI. Read another article today that you never know, World War III could start because somebody AI'd Putin and Trump, really, kind of threatening each other, and some people took it for real. So it's getting to be pretty wild out there. Our focus today is going to be on the identity part of all of this, which is the upfront piece, because at the end of the day, we have to know that the person, the machine, the device, or any code that we're talking with, or if in fact that code is talking with itself, like AI to AI or agent to agent, uh, we have to know what's real. We have to know that that person, that machine, that code on the other side is who they say or it says it is. And that's the real problem today with identity management. We know of factors, one factor, two factor, et cetera, but those aren't us. And I'm also publishing an article in Forbes that'll be out probably in a week and a half on the threat to cryptocurrency. And I say in there that it's not us. In other words, our logins aren't us, our passwords are not us. They're not related. It's like a key to your house. If someone has the key to your house, the lock doesn't care who's using that key because it doesn't have anything to do with identity. You use the key, you get in. Identity needs to go much, much further. And I think that's what we're going to talk today is how can we create a system which ensures that, or gets as close as possible? Because the only real way to know might be to be face to face, and that's obviously not practical for everything, or most things even. But the idea is how can we be as sure as possible that that person, machine, or code on the other side is who and what they say they are. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Brian, let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about the cryptocurrency market. Giant market, robust growth. I mean, there's estimates now that cryptocurrency is, some say it's going to reach 150,000 for Bitcoin in 2025. Some are saying it can go almost to $200,000. I remember I met Tim Draper about 3 or 4 years ago, and he was talking about Bitcoin going to 250,000, and that's when I think it was like $9,000 or something. And people thought he was crazy. But anyway, so the crypto market is expanding rapidly. Read another article just this morning. Now this is from Chainalysis, brand new, and so I didn't even have time to put it in the presentation. But the amount of crypto stolen last year, the first estimate is 9.9 billion, but they believe that estimate will be raised to $12.5 billion of stolen crypto just in 2024. The compound annual growth rate is somewhere in the neighborhood of 40% for that theft. And so, cryptocurrency, can you imagine, you're rich, if you have $10 million in your Bitcoin account and it's gone, and there you go. And so this is kind of where it's headed, but crypto theft is growing as fast as the overall market is growing. So you think of how the market is moving up and to the right, crypto theft's following it right along. Next slide, please, Brian. So what makes this so attractive? Well, a lot of reasons, because crypto is basically untrackable. It's used, these billions of dollars are used for money laundering, funding illicit activities, even personal enrichment, as we know. It's a high value asset because of the lack of regulation and protection. So there's no FDIC. Like if your bank account, if money comes out of your bank account, FDIC covers you to a certain amount. Banks, can kind of tell that the money was stolen. They could tell you didn't use it. But in the crypto markets, there's no remuneration. When that crypto is gone, it's gone, and there's no traceability to it. So this is why it's such a target. And of course, on the black markets, the illicit markets, where billions and billions of dollars are being used to buy all sorts of things, from weapon systems to any illicit software to any control or power. All of these black markets are vibrant due to the fact that this is an untrackable asset. And because it's untrackable, and because you look at how it's increasing in value now, it becomes the number one target for theft above anything else, because of the fact that, you think about it, if you steal $100,000 of the crypto, but it's going to be worth 185 at the end of the year, that's a pretty good return. So this is kind of the craziness that's going on. Next slide, please. So let's talk about who's taken it. So primarily nation states, because they can put the assets into it. You look at places like North Korea, they fund weapons. That's their number one funding source for their weapon systems, including nuclear, is based on hackers, stealing crypto. Even in Africa, Nigeria, obviously cyber criminals have been using this stuff for funding scams and more targeting of victims. And there's this new term called, well, maybe it's not new, but it's a recent term called pig butchering. But now they're finding ways that what they do is they use social engineering, again, impersonating somebody or even making a fake person completely. And then that person goes and tricks you into, via social engineering, tricks you into either wiring them money because of romance or wiring them money because of some sort of investment. But they have enough information. Remember AI, we're bringing AI right back in the picture now, because AI can create that information. It can create the data. It can know everything about you. This becomes a huge, huge problem. Again, thinking about identity, we're all using AI agents now. Every one of us is using ChatGPT or OpenAI, or same thing, sorry, or Google's version, any of the versions. Guess where that data is stored? It's stored online. It has every one of your preferences, everything about you, everything you're doing and thinking, you're putting in. And that means if that ever gets stolen, somebody has the entire social engineering path for you. This is very, very wild. China, we know China has tons of teams that are stealing everything, data, and they're also focusing obviously on cryptocurrency, again, because it's untrackable. And most of this cryptocurrency is just going to fund illicit activities around the globe. Next slide. All right, so what are we going to do about this? Well, this is a solution, and one of the reasons why I joined the company so long ago. Baldwin and Brian to put this thing together. But really, what it is, it's a way of getting as close to you as possible without being you. And so you think about, what does that mean? How can I get something that represents Skip out in the world that's not really me, but somebody can be sure that that was me behind it? Well, what we call those are factors. Many of you understand two-factor, right? One factor, two-factor. Two-factor is just, getting the text message or the second indication once you log in somewhere. And then we've all done that, right? You put the number in. But that's still not you. That's just a number, right? Um, so what you need to do to really make sure it's you, or be as close as possible as the true identity, is you have to have more information. You think about agentic AI and these things that know so much about you. Well, this in a way is using AI. iVALT's using, AI in a sense, and using information about you to be able to provide up to 5 factors. And actually, let me back up. 5 factors minimum, but up to 35 factors. So let's walk through a couple examples. Of course, username, password, got it. Mobile number. So your mobile number is unique to you, right? That's a decent little indicator. None of these in and of themselves are the end all be all, but combined, you get an exponential approach to identity. Device ID. So your phone or your mobile or your desktop has a device ID. Face or other biometrics. We're all used to putting our faces in our phones now, and some use other biometrics. Some are using thumbprints, or you can use retinal scanning, anything like that. But that's another factor that's pretty close to you, right? It's kind of indicating. But even face IDs can get spoofed. There's even spoofing for those now. You think about deep fakes. I mean, could a computer really tell the difference between a deep fake of your face and your real face? I don't know, probably not. But then you go into specifics like what iVault has here, which is, for instance, location. So think about if you could program when you're logging into a system, you could say, I'm only going to log in, let's say, from San Mateo, California. So if I log into an account I have, let's say with Bank of America, I could program the system to say, I only want to come in from San Mateo, California. If there's any login from anywhere else, deny it. Now, I may forget, I may travel. What if I travel to Houston, Texas? Whoops, forgot to do it. I can't log in. I blew it. I should have put that I was traveling. But the point is, there's a location element that can be another indication where you preset, or let's say in an enterprise sense, an enterprise presets locations for people. And let's look at another thing like a time window. So let's go back to that example where I'm going to log into my Bank of America account from San Mateo, California, but I'm only going to log in from 9 a.m. to 12 noon on Wednesdays. That's it. So if anybody logs into that account outside of that time frame, it's denied. Now roll this into a situation where an enterprise needs to control, millions of users or tens of thousands of staff members. Let's do some really important stuff. Think about who handles the databases for the enterprise. Like how many of these, breaches, in fact, most of the breaches, in fact, occur due to impersonation. They're stealing passwords, they're impersonating people, they're able to do, somehow get around two-factor. That impersonation piece is at least half of the breaches out there, which is, in the sense now the breaches are reaching into trillions of dollars per year. So you can count, I think the last number I saw was upwards of 10 trillion was stolen total. So 5 trillion of that is just due to the fact that I can fake that I'm you. But if you roll all this into it, let's say the people that handle the databases of a company, right, where all the crown jewels are. Well, let's say that those database admins were locked into a system like this, where you've got device ID, phone number, face, time, location, that is a pretty strong indication that that's them. It would be really hard to spoof that. And by the way, spoof it in real time. This is where identity has to go. It just has to go this direction. It's got to be a system where there are many factors, and there's dozens of other factors that enterprise could deploy. And in fact, you talk about AI, you could talk about then using behavioral factors like how a person works the keyboard, or when they log in, and how they're logging in and what they're seeing and their patterns, right? Their pattern matching. You add all that in, and now you've got something that's way beyond where the identity is today. And so, and the last thing, it's got to be easy to use, and that's where the one click with iVault comes in. So let me stop here. I'm going to hand over to Brian Stout, co-founder. But anyway, I really think that this is a fantastic solution. It's necessary. I know none of us are happy with what's happening out there with everything that's getting theft, deepfaked, ransomware. So Brian, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Skip. Just to talk a little bit about iVALT specifically, Skip set this up very well with what the problems are. It really boils down to the weakest link in cybersecurity is the fact that we don't know who the person is at the endpoint, which is especially risky for cybersecurity owners. And in reality, 80% of all cybercrime comes from stolen credentials. And then the bigger attack front really is social engineering. This is getting so much better with AI. And so identifying who's at the endpoint is becoming increasingly difficult, and it's much easier to fake who it is. So the identity verification piece becomes extremely important, especially in the context of AI. So in crypto, there's a specific set of challenges. There's a balance necessary between user needs and what users always want for all types of identity and the highest possible security. So with wallets, there are different types of wallets. There's hot wallets, which are primarily software, and cold wallets, which are typically USB sticks that you can basically connect and disconnect from the internet. So hot wallets are connected to the internet at all times, and cold wallets are not. And there's the protection of keys, and then the safe count access that has to be very strong. And then there's a lot of regulations that are not standardized yet. It's still kind of evolving. And on the user side, users want to control their identity. And this applies to everything. The days of having hundreds of passwords and having them stolen and used against you has to stop. And it has to be easy to use, as well as Skip mentioned, it's one click. You got to protect the keys and the seed phrases, which are used to recover the keys. And then the thing about crypto is there's a need for anonymity and privacy as well. So that's a big concern for users. So what we have is we have come up with a universal identity for everything. And this is a mobile-based identity controlled by the identity owner. So you're not delegating your identity to all your digital relationships. This is basically in control of every user. Okay, and Skip mentioned biometrics, a unique a device ID, registered mobile number. These are all things that identify you. Typically, your identity today may be a device. Most likely, it's credentials. So these are the identity piece, and then creating context, contextual and dynamic variables is the part that we bring where because you're using a mobile phone, you can use things that are like GPS location, time windowing, as Skip mentioned, creating safe zones where you make the attack surface very, very small for the hackers. And this is what drives hackers crazy, is if you add more variables in the way that we do it, it gets very, very difficult to hack. And we've talked to top level red team hackers, and pretty much across the board have said this is very difficult, if not impossible to hack. And the more variables you add, the harder it gets. And so consequently, they've told us that, you might be able to hack 2 or 3 of these, but getting all of them, there's no way we could know what they are. So consequently, each authentication is unique because the dynamic variables in a lot of cases are different for every authentication. So what we are is really starting this move towards decentralized identity and providing that in a very simple user experience in one click. So as an example for crypto wallets, the access control is 3 to 5 plus factors of identity. So if you're getting access to your wallet, it would require you to perhaps set your geofences and your time windowing. Your biometrics would be used, your device ID would be used. It's very, very strong to get access to things like your wallet or even the hardware keys for hardware wallets. So the point is that you're adding these variables that are going to make this very much more difficult to hack. And the way we do it, it's one click, so the passive variables are all captured in the background. So the user experience remains very, very easy, and actually easier than it is with two-factor authentication. At the bottom, you see the recipients of phishing attacks. So primarily here, we're talking about phone calls where people are impersonating or they're using AR deepfakes. On the same mobile app that you use for authentication, we can provide identity, which you can push your request for identity to a colleague or someone else using iVALT, and they can identify themselves in one click on their end. And the information goes back to you, and it says Brian's in Colorado. It has my device was verified, my biometrics were verified, and any other factors. And so you know it's me. So we stop social engineering. And same thing for AI deepfakes. It sounds like grandma, but it's not grandma. So let's verify this by grandma taking one click on her phone. And then stolen credentials in this scenario, the way we do it, even if you steal my credentials, you'll still need my biometrics, my device ID, and my contextual variables. So the components here are really, we have a very simple software redirect. We use this for enterprise. We use this for everything that we do, IoT devices, et cetera. Very easy to implement it where it can be in the middle of any workflow. So if it's an and or an if statement of if it's over a certain amount of money, then re-verify or go through some kind of continuous authentication. We can do that very easily in a workflow. It goes to our system. We ping the mobile phone in one click. We capture Face ID and then all the other factors in the background, which then can be authenticated and you gain access. We can also optionally set up a identification verification for a particular person by going through a process of ID proofing. And most of us have been through this with bank accounts or whatever online, where you scan your driver's license, it's a valid driver's license, et cetera, et cetera. We can add that as a part of this identity solution. So the way we've constructed this is, as Skip mentioned, we have 5 factors and up to 30 additional endpoints. So your mobile phone is very powerful. It can capture a lot of contextual information, even down to things like the strength of Wi-Fi's that are near you. So it's stronger on one side of my house, not as strong on the other side of my house. So it's very, very tight in being able to identify your location and also things like altitude. People can't impersonate that I'm with Baldev in California because I live in Colorado at 7,000 feet. So there's a lot of things that can be used on the identity side. And then the use cases, there's literally hundreds, if not thousands of use cases. Today we're focusing on cryptocurrency, but this can be used for everything and the same ID can be used for everything. So what we're building also is a zero trust authenticator. Now, what it does is peer-to-peer, which is the person to person. If you have the app and I have the app, we can identify each other on the end of a phone call. This stops social engineering. There is no solution in the market today that does this. Caller ID doesn't work. You can spoof caller ID. You can also do SIM swaps and a bunch of other things. So phone calls are just not protected. But now with the mobile app on both sides, you can verify it's Brian in Colorado, et cetera. That blocks social engineering and AI deepfakes. So imagine this in a help desk scenario. I call into the help desk and they verify my identity before they change my ID or change my password or do any other actions that I'm asking them to do. This would have stopped the MGM attack a year ago in Las Vegas because that was a hacker pretending to be the CEO and eventually convinced them to change his password. And the rest is history. We have the ability to have ID connections. This is where you have multiple relationships for your crypto account, for your enterprise connections, your bank account, et cetera. We do two-factor authentication in our mobile app, but we surround that with biometrics. So you can't get the 6 digits unless you use the two-factor, unless you use the biometrics as a part of that. So it really becomes 3-factor authentication. And then we can do FIDO2, we can do identity proofing, as I mentioned before. And then the best part about this is we can geofence in time window. So you can set the geofencing and time windowing for your authentications. So as Skip made the example, it's Brian in his favorite coffee shop this time of the day in Colorado, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going on this path and it geofences and time windows, which makes the attack surface very narrow. And then secondarily here, we have the first geofencing solution for two-factor authentication and FIDO2. So you cannot authenticate using these technologies without being inside the geofence. So this solves a good portion of the phishing type attacks. So just going into a couple other use cases, and this applies, of course, all of this applies to the cryptocurrency problems. But the idea is AI demands stronger identity, as Skip was talking about. And there's all these problems here that have to be addressed, social engineering and deepfake. And it's really a bunch of relationships. It's person to device, person to software agents, and then the interactions between each of those. And we have a lot of IP around the communications between the agents and the devices, and the person to the devices and the agents. And more importantly, is this is an ecosystem. It has to be stronger than just that authentication. And we have the ability with QSecure to provide quantum resilient communications between these elements. So now you can't hack in and get the information that's being passed between the various components and people in the system. We also have and are just launching the ability to embed your mobile number, your email address, et cetera, into media. That I'm talking about images, videos, and just lately PDFs. So you can protect documents and you can upload them and protect them, embed mobile numbers into them, and only those people are able to open those documents. So if I did this and I sent this to Skip, if I had a PDF and I embedded his mobile number in it, and I sent it to him. He's the only I sent him the link to it. He's the only person on the face of the earth besides me that can open it using iVALT as the back end piece of this. And this applies to a lot of things. This applies to the social media problem that Skip was talking about. If you force some kind of identity for posting things, pictures, images, etc., into social media, then you can stop a lot of this AI deepfake and a lot of this fake stuff that's going on with respect to content. And then on the other side of that is digital signatures. This is a much better approach to actually signing a document or embedding an identity that has in its life cycle being confirmed with government IDs through the identity proofing mechanism that we can bring. And then last of all here is in IoT, there's a lot of platforms in IoT. And this, again, it's the same AI problem that we have and that with cryptocurrency. All of these different platforms have unique weaknesses, but identity is common to everything. And so what we're able to do is things like home network, physical access, smart TVs. We have patents around streaming services and IoT, and especially with respect to communications and between the devices and between the humans and the devices. So this is an area that's very large and growing fast. And IoT is billions of devices now. It's going to be many more than that in the coming years. So from a company perspective, this is kind of where we are right now. We have already integrated and partnered with some of the big IAM companies, identity and access management, and for single sign-on with a couple of big players, Okta and Ping. We are being used as the master password for password managers. If you think of a password manager, it's not as secure because you have a master password that basically protects all your passwords. So if you create a situation where you use iVault to get access to your password manager, it's much stronger. And then we're doing things in an IoT device management with what you see here. Some of these I haven't put names in because we can't publicly announce them yet. Payments, you see Fintra here for crypto. We've done a lot of stuff in the financial services area. We have lots of conversations going on right now. And then the verticals, systems integrators, identity firms. One of the largest lock companies is looking at using our authentication for their electronic locks. And the use cases go on and on here. And then again, we can use QSecure for quantum resilience to take this forward. So this creates a future-proof access or applications for all the stuff that we're doing. And that's basically what I had. What we ask is if you have questions or you want to get in touch with us about anything you heard today, please let us know. I'll leave the QR code up here for a minute. On the left-hand side there are the QR codes to download our mobile app. If you do that, you can use it as a two-factor authenticator. It also, you can do if you get a friend, or you can do it with yourself actually, download the app and you can use it to do what we call on-demand ID, which is the solution for social engineering. So if you ping yourself, it'll give you the information about your location, your device ID that has been verified, et cetera. So feel free to reach out to us, get back to us, and let us know if you have questions. I put my contact information. You can send me an email. And then the other QR code, I don't know if you can see it all on this side. This is just www.ivault.com. So that's all I have. Thank you all for your time, and we appreciate you participating in this webinar. Thank you.